So this is the question people have. What can you do? And I'm glad my half-Asian lawyer, Bill Richmond, is here, COVID-free, with a lot of it. We're going into Thanksgiving, and there are these lockdowns, and people are saying, well, what can we do at this point if it seems like everything is lost? And it's not. Right. The election is not over. That's why we still have the promo code. But you still do have the far left acting as though it's over and already implementing these crazy lockdowns and trying to bar you from celebrating Thanksgiving. Here's the thing. You haven't seen this in the media. There have been a lot of acts of civil disobedience, and it starts with understanding your rights. It starts with understanding the bounds of the law so that you can understand where your local officials, or in some cases governors, are actually not within the parameters of the law, or certainly people coming in trying to shut down your business when they don't have that authority. So let's go through a few acts of civil disobedience, some of my favorites, one of which involves a crazy Polish man. Finally, the crazy Polacks got one right. This is in Buffalo, New York. No one cares. Polacks like, it's true. However, we were the ones who said, stop with the Muslim immigration. Joke's on you. We win. Here are some, not only business owners in Buffalo, New York, but there was a meeting of business owners, I think restaurateurs specifically, which is an affected name. You own a diner.
I'm a restaurateur.
They said some cops came in and were sent in, and I think also perhaps a health inspector. I'm not sure the role of this professional Karen-in-chief. They were trying to shut down this business, and they responded. Again, in understanding their rights, this to me is one of the most beautiful encapsulations of you knowing your rights and civil disobedience that all of us can and I would encourage to be engaging in.
You're on private property. You need to leave.
We're asking to appeal to your compassionate side. I know you're a taxpayer. Our tax dollars guarantee your guys' paychecks. But some of these people actually work for their money, and they don't want to lose their livelihood. I've lost friends, I've lost family who've killed themselves. I've seen clients die because they've lost their livelihood.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I know you are, and I'm asking for you to guys have some compassion for the people that have lost everything.
We do have compassion for people who
Okay, well, you need to go
everything.
have compassion out in the parking lot. This is private property.
Compassion. Get your ass compassion in the parking lot.
Go get a warrant. Listen, man, this is private property.
Get a
You're
warrant.
not wanted here.
Yeah.
So do your jobs.
I love how she reached into her holster and pulled out a cell phone.
Protest, guys. We do not have to disband. It is a protest. This is a lawful protest.
And no one had to burn down a racetrack or throw a Molotov cocktail into a buckle store.
Was she calling Cuomo? Hey, they're not listening.
They're not listening.
Hey,
Yeah, that's like
they're not listening.
reaching into the suit jacket and pulling out a notepad, like Hans Bricks from the UN. So there you go. They understood. No, you don't have the authority to come in here. You are on private property. Leave.
Yeah.
They didn't assault anybody. They didn't throw bricks. They didn't hit anyone in the back of the head with a snare drum, which, although a creative crime, I do not advocate this against the police.
No,
That's a
but
little
it makes an
music to
interesting
it,
sound.
What is that sound, Gerald?
It actually
can't
happened.
reproduce
There's one of
it.
these who hit a female cop in a riot helmet with a snare drum. And she was like, snap! And she was like, she was very confused. And she was more like, is someone started? Is there a concert I didn't know about? They didn't get a permit?
No.
You're about to say something.
I was going to say that they asked them, they said, okay, well, what is the violation to the Karen-in-chief, as you pointed out? And she said, oh, it's anonymous. And he's like, no,
that's
get the
how
hell
the
out of
right
here.
to
That's
face
how
your laws work.
That's what started
You have the right
this
to
whole-
face your accuser,
Yeah.
correct?
Well, you do in certain contexts. And here's the thing: is look, if you were a law enforcement officer in this moment, you have a lot of things that you're in a rock and a hard place in, right? Which is you're sworn to uphold the law, whatever the laws may be. But however, you have the ability in the United States to decide whether or not you're going to actually go and enforce something or not.
Yeah.
So what is the pressure? The pressure is coming from who is at the top of every law enforcement food chain in every jurisdiction? Politicians. It's the politicians who are saying, you go enforce these rules or you'll be out on the street. You'll be out on a livelihood. So I liked how those business owners spoke to them and even raising their voice and like doing the chanting. That's all great stuff.
Right.
It's communicating, hey, we're trying to do our job.
Yeah. And what sucks is officers
But we're
are caught
pushing
between
back.
a rock and a hard place. They're caught between a Cuomo and a constitutional place in a lot of these scenarios.
Boom.
Easy choice.
You guess which one's the hard place.
Are we talking about barbell nipples? Cuomo. We'll get to
dirty
Cuomo's
man.
Thanksgiving orders, which, by the way, I will not comply. I don't know if that means I'm going to be banned because I'll be making merry. But and people have said if you make merry at Thanksgiving, you're going to have a much quieter house at Christmas. Like, I see an empty crutch by the fire. Go screw yourself.
Right, yeah.
Listen, we're going to celebrate Thanksgiving, and So here's another example. In Huntington Beach, right, there were people protesting California. They had the overnight curfew, which is COVID, which I don't understand how a curfew helps COVID exactly.
I'm not
COVID,
sure.
I guess
Guys, the science shows COVID has to sleep too.
It sleeps.
But none for the riots.
no, not for the riots.
Yeah,
no. Well, I mean, maybe it did sleep because.
that's off. They take off shifts.
So here are some people
yeah.
in Huntington Beach in California. Look, you're not all spineless serfs protesting the COVID lockdown in Huntington Beach.
Still alive out here.
Not only no crimes, those flags didn't even touch the ground accidentally.
Oh,
Beautiful.
That's wonderful.
Then here's another one. Again, we're talking about what can you do? Acts of civil disobedience. Know your rights. If you run a business, you can run your business. Understand the authority that people do or don't have to shut it down. Understand your right to peaceably assemble and protest, to petition. These are your rights right now. I know a lot of people want to say that you don't have these rights. They didn't go away, and they're not only afforded to members of the Black Lives Matter Antifa Black Bloc group, just to be clear. As a matter of fact, it even applies to Polish Americans with eyes that look like upside-down quarter moons. Here's a Polish American who was comparing the lockdowns to Eastern Europe. And I love this guy.
Right now,
Look at his
we
eyes.
focus on the United States of America, which we witnessed firsthand. All this voter
Steve
fraud
Bannon had a
that's
baby with
going on
bubbles.
with the election. They want to take it over by fraud. By the fraud.
By the fraud.
We know firsthand how the communism and socialism work. It's a beautiful idea, but it's actually inhumane system.
Yeah. I would tend to agree. People say religion is the cause of all wars. I don't know if you're counting religious atheism, if you're counting Marxism, but people who lived under communist rule understand that. And here's another one, too. This is something people miss. They think it's just in the United States. This is worldwide. The difference is the United States is the only place where you have a voice left. So that in and of itself is very important as it relates to civil disobedience. In Europe, places like the BBC, where people say, I get my news from unbiased sources like the BBC. You mean funded by the British government? In Canada,
Unbiased.
CBC. You mean nationally funded news? You don't need to go to Venezuela to find it. And so people who are protesting, right, in a lot of these European nations, they're just not allowed to have a voice. So you don't see it. And of course, I constantly get these violations on Twitter in accordance with German law.
Well, the last one we got was Japan.
Oh, was
Japan
Japan?
was very upset with one of your posts.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Go back to stealing hip hop and skateboarding. Japanese culture is, if you are the only other culture that has skateboarding, hip hop, and baseball, you're America light. We don't know that this happens across the globe. Berlin still can't get it right. Here's an anti-lockdown protest in Berlin, and then as the camera pans, you'll see how they still treat their people in Germany. Oh, look, protest, peaceful. Okay. Doesn't look like they're burning anything. And the fire hoses.
No, that's vodka.
It's a party.
And the fire hoses. Are we going to send the German shepherds? We thought in this case there's a lack of irony. Perhaps we send Rottweilers? Maybe that would be, like a flip, like a spy versus spy kind of violation of rights. Berlin, you still don't get it right. I'm keeping my eye on you.
I thought we stopped using water cannons in the 70s. Bad optics.
No, they didn't in the place that likes to talk down to America while they have brownouts, horribly skyrocketing energy costs, and they still fire hose their protesters.
Yeah.
I do want to say that every other article I read on any kind of left-leaning site, we talk about how read a lot of the kind of what the other side is saying.
Yeah.
Is they just selectively taking European countries and just browbeating the shit out of Americans over
Right,
it,
yeah.
being like, look, Angela Merkel, she gave everything to everyone, and all of their dreams came true. And then the next day they're like, Germans are the worst, and they have Nazis in their government. And then the next day they're like, they crushed COVID, and then the next day, oh, they didn't do so good.
They crushed COVID. How? Fire hoses. It's amazing the pressure you can get when you remove the eco nozzle. You take off the little rubber gasket, you can really do some harm to people just trying to eat some pie at the diner.
COVID doesn't thrive in dead bodies.
Yeah.
So
It really doesn't. That's true. Very
Unless you're swimming in them because they've been fire hosed with a mass shallow grave. Germany. I'm sorry. I don't care. I don't care what Germany has to say. And this is something else that was interesting. We've talked about Sweden.
Yeah.
And this is something that I will tell you I didn't even refute because I didn't think to do the research just because I didn't know it was so consequential. We talked about Sweden, had no lockdowns at all.
Right.
There's an actual measure. It's kind of like the Economic Freedom Index. I don't know the name of it. Someone can tell me. You can tell me in chat. But they have an index that shows how free societies have been versus how stringent the lockdowns have been.
Right.
And Sweden is very free. And so you have a lot of these people on the left to go, yeah, but Sweden didn't do nearly as well as their neighbors in Finland and Norway, right? Now, we know that Sweden is not as bad as Italy and Spain. Sweden's better than some, worse than some, but they haven't seen the crippling effects to their economy.
Right.
So I always thought, well, it doesn't really matter because Belgium, Norway, it just seems like there's no rhyme. Well, here's the thing. If you actually look at Norway and Finland, they had less restrictions than Sweden. That's why. So they're saying, Sweden didn't. They had a laissez-faire attitude, but they're worse off than their neighbors who have an even more laissez-faire attitude. They didn't even have a mask mandate. And Finland, they just got. You know what? Finland, they should just take the one. The terrorists showed up, saw how boring it was, and left.
What I love about this protest, though, is that people in Germany seem to have bigger balls than people in America right now, protesting things that are against
some
their
people
beliefs.
in the
Some
United
people.
States.
I know. I'm not saying overall. I'm just saying that's a huge protest.
Yeah.
That's massive for them. They don't even have that right to begin with.
You need to understand, too, when I get violations on Twitter, I get violations of German law, violations of Islamic law, violations in Pakistan. But these are countries where my account would probably be removed if I were based in their country because I would be subject to those laws. A lot of Americans don't understand this, and I was raised in Canada. If freedom of speech goes here, it goes everywhere. That's why the Hong Kong protesters were singing the American national anthem.
Yeah.
You may not like it. You may not like how people exercise their civil disobedience or their free speech rights here, but you need to understand that is uniquely American. It does not exist anywhere else. You don't get fire hosed down simply for assembling. Now, I know some people will say that Donald Trump beanbagged some folks, but that's because the steeple was on fire. Different strokes. Here's one that was in Michigan, another civil protest. It was Operation Gridlock in opposition to some of the lockdowns from Governor Whitmer. This is another creative way. Here you go.
Whoa.
That being said, like gridlock in Lansing, it's inconsequential. It's like, I didn't really want to go anyway. It's like an adult snow day. You mean I can't go to work in Lansing? I guess I'm going in. Bus. All right, lots of cars. There's 2 inches of snow.
It's very creative.
And then here's another one. Do we have this one? Do we have clip 1E?
I do.
This is another example, and it's crazy that these people are the rebels. This is these people are Jewish. Or as they're known if they're practicing Jews on Twitter, not welcome. This is a secret Jewish wedding with thousands of maskless people. It's wonderful.
What is happening?
Hey, Cuomo, you better come out and stop him.
Right.
And finally, here's another example, and I'll be doing an Ash Wednesday tomorrow with Pastor Mark Driscoll, so a long-form interview. Their church has never closed down in Phoenix. It's kind of surprising, isn't it, that we're now at this phase of rebellion?
Yeah.
It is. The Jewish community got attacked. Was that in New York, that last clip?
I don't
Do you know where that was?
Can we have Reg
believe
confirm?
it was
I
in
believe
New
it
York.
was.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I don't know where you find that many Orthodox Jews in those hats in one closed area in the United States
South
outside of New
Dakota.
York.
Dancing in
South
unison.
Dakota,
That was
South Dakota.
Yeah.
Provo, Utah, I hear.
Inside Mount Rushmore.
Provo, Utah, that are showing up to the Mormon
Yeah.
temple. They changed the decor. I don't like change. Contrasting the degeneracy of the left and the new era of Biden, John MacArthur, he has a church in Los Angeles, and he continued to meet despite the bans, of course, on churches. Yeah. Here's actually how and I know people think that old, polite white guys can't be rebels.
Sure.
But this clip is proof positive that you need to check your biases.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to welcome you to the Grace Community Church Peaceful Protest.
It might as well be that picture of Johnny Cash, just him right there.
Right, yeah. That's a man who
crowd was
thought
so
about that
excited.
joke all night. Yeah. Perfect delivery.
Right.
And he just
He
couldn't
starts
help.
crowd surfing.
Praise the Lord and pass the ghost. Screw yourselves, unconstitutional government.
Oh man, that's pretty
I
awesome.
love it.
actually.
I love seeing that coming out of California.
Yeah, it's
Screw Newsom.
Yeah, Los Angeles.
The guy that's going to go out and do whatever he wants.
$650 a plate at French Laundry restaurant.
No, it's okay. They
He's
actually
just like you.
They held the service at French Laundry. So
That's true.
So he
Right.
needs to practice
Yeah.
what he preaches.
Well, he was also maskless, I think.
We had half oyster on the raw quail egg. Can you just get, listen, I like food, but can you have to be such an affected prick? Can you go to a place that's expensive and good and people understand what's on the menu? Nothing bothers me more than when you go and they go, oh, yeah, and everyone pretends like they know, oh, yes, I always eat the oyster shell on the half quail egg, of course. No one has had it ever. And here's the thing, too. Hey, coppers, you guys can join in, too. I'm glad that my half-Asian lawyer likes this. You guys can join in, too, police officers.
Yeah.
Because you know what? It means hey, we went to bat for you when people were targeting you, police officers. And so, you know what? We went to bat for you when you were actually trying to do your job and people were treating you like crap. And, you know, now it's time to go back, have the back of the people who've supported you. And I want to be clear, not all police officers are that way. When you have some police officers coming in and they are willing to enforce orders that they know are a violation of people's rights, that's where you need to know your rights, where you say, hey, you need a warrant. However, I would like to see, and we've seen a lot of this, the spirit of police officers, as you'll see in some of these segments. So, for example, in Virginia, they passed an unconstitutional gun law. Yeah. And this is actually the Virginia Attorney General, Mark Herring. He said, when Virginia passes these gun safety laws, they will be followed, they will be enforced, and talked about threatening officers who do not enforce. This is basically, by the way, a ban on a lot of weapons where you would have to mandate. I don't even know if they do a buyback. I was like, you're going to toss me if you... No, we're taking it. You have that authority? Not really. But who cares about that anymore? Because Jeff Bezos has my back. They're saying we're going to punish officers who do not enforce this unconstitutional gun law. And here are police officers saying, no.
If the bills go through as proposed, they will not be enforced. They're unconstitutional. We swore to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Virginia, and that's what we'll do. Outstanding. Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Boom.
I love
him
it.
and the Mall Santas Association of America.
So, you know what, this is a really, just bear with me on this comic book reference. Garrett will get it initially.
Oh, Lord.
You remember how in all the Batman movies and in the comic books and everything, they're always like, yeah, we got that guy over there on the Batman file. And it's the stupidest guy who's the Helen Keller of detectives. He can't figure anything out.
She wasn't stupid. She was blind and deaf. I've read her quotes.
And they're like,
then her handler was scribbling down, oh, yes, she says, look before you leap. Helen Keller said that?
And they're like, oh, man, we can't catch the Batman. Too bad. We can't enforce these anti-vigilante rules.
Exactly.
I mean, look, here's the reality. If you're an officer who disobeys and you're told by a Northam or someone else, we will punish you. The only punishment is we will fire you. You will be out on the street. And that's a reality for what these officers are. So whenever we're confronted with an officer who's saying look, man, okay, I'm just going to look over here and you walk away, but I'm going to report that it happened. That's them making sure that they can put food on their work, which is why we have to focus our ire not just on pushing back with officers and telling them, hey, be on our side, but then remembering that the person who is pushing them to do that, the person pushing them to the end of the plank into this situation are the politicians who were allowed into office. Right. So it's just remembering
that is a problem,
what the
and
problem is.
That's why we have to get back to the Constitution. That's why you also need to understand what your rights are and what is the Constitution tells you which rights cannot be violated, and that's why I don't believe that I need a permit. It's the Second Amendment. Now, that's a law that people obviously infringe upon in different states, but it shall not be infringed, period, and I know you can get to the idea of concealed carry. However, you do have the right to have Thanksgiving dinner in your own home. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't care what a governor says. That's my God-given right. And so if a police officer comes in and breaks it up, as we've seen because you're Hasidic Jews, and they say you can't be more than 10, well, first off, good luck finding any home in New York and Queens with Hasidic Jews that has less than 10 people. Second, you don't have the right to do that. So listen, hey, Jews with the curly sideburns, I don't know many of you, but we got your back. Yeah. You have the right.
Absolutely. And in this case, this isn't just one or two people doing this. 73 counties so far have set up this kind of sanctuary county where they're saying, look, if these laws pass, they're unconstitutional, we're not going to enforce them. Not one or two. 73 counties in Virginia. I love it. I love seeing that.
Yeah. They're just saying, no, we're not going to do it.
Yeah.
We're not going to go. Remember when people said, hey, they're coming for your guns? I said, we're not coming for your guns. Then we pointed to Heller versus D.C., where actually the dissenting opinion said you have no right to own a firearm whatsoever. Not some kind of scary assault weapon, which you don't even know what that means necessarily, but even this, just an old-fashioned wheel gun. No, there are some people, they believe in the Heller versus D.C. dissenting opinions, I don't have a right to have a firearm, period. Even here, carrying around in my own property, in my own home. Yeah. And then people said they're going to come for your, and people said, no, why are you fear-mongering? Now you actually have secretaries, you have governors saying, go to the homes and take those guns. And you have someone who could be president of the United States, Joe Biden, who said that he'll make Beto O'Rourke his gun czar, who said, hell yes, it'll be a mandatory buyback. Which, by the way, okay, I will comply. I will sell back any firearms that I have personally purchased from the federal government. I will sell them back to you.
That works.
I hope you've kept a receipt.
Watch Good Morning Mug Club live every Monday through Thursday at 10:15 Eastern.